Peter, you're still in San Francisco?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
How are you, Rich?
I am doing great. So much being made this morning about Cam's post-game press conference. He did apparently hear Chris Harris at a nearby podium, right, Peter? Is that what happened?
I don't know. That's what I hear. Hey, look, I wrote this last night on Twitter. I didn't really write about it in my column.
Yeah.
But to me, Rich, this is a tempest in a teapot. He should have handled himself better. He'll probably look back at this in 2 weeks and just say, and the PR people in Carolina will think we should have handled it better. But this is one of those things that I think we tend to, because there are 9 million people covering the NFL.
Yes.
This is a great second-day story, and I just really don't much care about it. It's just not that interesting to me. A guy was a little bit pissy with reporters after the game and had no interest being with the reporters. I don't care that much. It's just not that interesting to me. Now, if you're the way I look at it is, if I was a PR guy, I would say to him, all you have to do is for 5 minutes, just answer questions in a morose way, but just give 2 or 3 things, and then you can walk out of there. You're down, you're upset, and everything like that. But now it'll be a story needlessly for a few days. So in other words, I get it. I understand it's not a big deal, but people are going to make it a big deal. So all you have to do is invest 5 painful minutes of your life, and it's over. Who cares?
So it's sort of the opposite of PTI, 5 painful minutes.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it is.
Basically what it is. All right, so let's turn the page to what does interest you. I imagine Peyton Manning, you had a nice chat with him, or an interesting chat with him after the game last night. What did you glean from 18, Peter?
Look, I'm just like everybody else. I'd be very surprised if he came back. People, there's a couple things to realize, Rich. Number one, John Elway, and I don't mean this in a really negative way, even though it's going to sound negative, he's a cold-blooded killer. He's going to do what's best for the team. And what's best for the team is not investing any more money in a 40-year-old quarterback, who he loves, who he's really grateful to do. But he loves a lot of guys who he's cut over the years. And so, he's got to invest in Brock Osweiler. He's got to try to find some way on a cap-heavy team already to get Malik Jackson to come back. He knows he's probably going to franchise, Von Miller. But he's got to find some way to get Malik Jackson to stay because he's really good. So there's no way you can take $15 million or whatever this ridiculous number would be, a tenth of your cap next year, and give it to a 40-year-old quarterback. And similarly, Peyton Manning hates change. He hates newness. So I think he's just going to retire and ride off into the sunset.
Okay. So then what did you think of Manning's week? I mean, his ability now with all
Rich,
the numbers, with the legacy, Peter.
So I was at the Broncos practices last week. I was the pool reporter covering the Broncos. Here was my takeaway from the week. First of all, I thought he was going to play a lot better. I was wrong. I mean, I saw him at practice on Thursday. He was 24 out of 28. He was on fire. Wade Phillips basically said, this guy, this is as good as it gets, and so I was surprised he didn't play better. But having said all that, I think that he really viewed this. A lot of people would say, well, geez, his stats stink. He's not that good. Peyton Manning is thrilled because you know why? He finally found a team that has everything else in great shape. And so all he has to do is be okay. There's something about a lack of pressure on your shoulders, about not having to throw for 380 every week, that's got to be pretty comforting. And that's what I found when I talked to him last night. I'm telling you, Rich, he had every opportunity in 10 minutes alone with me, one-on-one, to basically say, well, it's a little bittersweet. I didn't play that well. This guy was euphoric. He's got a second Super Bowl, and he doesn't care how he won it. And I think that's a great lesson to people about what a team game this is.
Well, I mean, because it means so much. He understands the history of this game. I mean, he won't. I mean, he understands his place in the
And
game,
Rich,
and
you
what
know
people.
what, Rich?
Yeah.
When
Does it
people
matter?
talk about Ben Roethlisberger,
No.
they say two-time Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, they don't talk about his QB rating in
Well,
2005 and
yeah.
that Super
Do
Bowl
you remember
40.
how bad he was
Absolutely.
in that Super Bowl against
No.
Seattle? I mean,
No.
and so no one says, no one looks at things like quarterback rating. They don't look at your performance. Peyton Manning now can line up, with the icons who have won 2 Super Bowls, and it's a little bit more in line with the best regular season career of all time.
Peter King joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, let's talk about Saturday now. The Hall of Fame voting. Is it a broken process, Peter?
I don't think so. I've heard all the alternatives, Rich. I just don't know any alternative that's a lot better. I'm not saying that our process is perfect, but I think, and everybody's upset about T.O. I'm going to write a little about T.O. in my column tomorrow.
Right.
Everybody's upset about that, but I think the problem that we have when we consider, like when we talk about Terrell Owens, everybody says, look at the numbers. Well, we're not automatons, okay? We don't say like in baseball, what baseball used to be. If you have 500, bang, you're 500 homers, you're in the Hall of Fame. I don't think you should do that in football. I think you should look at what kind of player he was, and I do think part of it, and Rich, I fully support Terrell Owens, warts and all, with what he was, divisive with teams. I fully support him to be in the Hall of Fame. He would have been, if I had to take the 15 guys on that list, he would have been one of my 5. But having said that, you can't eliminate. Everything has to be an amalgamation. Eddie DeBartolo, his salary cap violation in '98, that has to be part of it. His suspension from the league, that has to be part of it. But it can't be all of it. That has to be part of it. And look, everybody in Denver really upset about Terrell Davis, and I get it. A beloved guy, incredible for 3 years. But at some point, you just have to at least ask the question, shouldn't you be better than for 3 years? Fantastic for 3 years to get in the Hall of Fame? And again, I voted for Terrell Davis going from 15 to 10. I mean, I think he has a heck of a case for somebody who didn't play any meaningful football really, or not meaningful, but didn't really have a great year after the age of 26. So I'm a little bit betwixt and between on Terrell Davis. But I think longevity in today's era, I don't think it's valid to compare him to a guy who played 51 years ago, Gale Sayers. You can compare them, but I think you have to put a big, heavy asterisk on 51 years ago.
But what about
anyway,
this?
Go ahead.
What about this, Peter, though?
Yep.
I mean, why does it – the thing that's always I found fascinating since I've been introduced to this whole world 13 years ago up close with the NFL Network, what's with the getting in the room and hashing it out? Why can't there be just ballots voted on just in your own time?
You could.
And just why get in a room and have to sit there and debate and have somebody look you in the eye and say, what about this person, and pound the table?
That's valid.
Especially
that's
now,
valid.
though. Now,
but
though,
I would also make this point. 46 people, if they all had ballots, and they get them in the mail and they have to vote.
Yeah.
My question is, what are they going to do about Dick Stanfill? Okay. What are they going to do about guys who are Veterans Committee guys?
Well, just do what most of the time is just vote yes on them, right? Just trust the Veterans Committee that the Veterans...
yeah, I guess so, but I don't know.
Just trust
Jerry Kramer's been a huge debate over time.
I know. He's like the only guy that hasn't been rubber stamped, God bless him, over the last 10, 13 years.
I mean, and the reason that I've always said to people, and I'm fine if somebody wants to bring him up again, Jerry Kramer's been in that room 11 times. 11 times. He's had his case heard. I forget, it's either 9 or 10 by guys who covered him all the time.
But
and he was deemed not a Hall of Fame player.
It just seems to me, Peter, that getting in a room and hashing it out, certainly now that you're now on the clock. It used to be you go as long as you want.
Right.
Now you got to get this in the hands of Conan O'Brien's of the world, right? For the network television.
I mean, this meeting is not going to be longer than 9 hours anyway. I mean, look, Rich, I understand exactly what you're saying. Mm-hmm. 'Cause, I understand exactly what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I believe that with some players, 'cause, 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 with especially some of the players who a lot of people in that room didn't see or didn't cover. I think it's a beneficial process to go in and discuss them and talk to people who covered them and debate and kind of winnow down the process from 15 to 10 and 10 to 5. I don't think it's a be all end all.
Right.
But I do think it is a valuable process.
We had Dan Fouts on in hour number one. He said he and Lofton were in the room, and he thinks that members who are already in the hall should get a say. What do you think about that, Peter?
Well, I think one of the things that I would just say is that if the people who are in the hall get a say, it's totally fine. But in my opinion, I think a lot of that Steelers would beget Steelers, and Cowboys would beget. If you get the guys from the Cowboys, they may come in there and say, "I really want Drew Pearson on the team." So in other words, the power franchises, if their guys get in the room, wouldn't that necessarily mean that they would have? People say that we have biases against. I have biases against all 32 teams, and I also love all 32
That's
teams.
you too.
So
I mean, you're good at what you do, Peter. That's been done.
So here's the thing, Rich, and I really look. James Lofton and Dan Fouts were in there yesterday or Saturday, and I really respect both of those guys, but I just really wonder, how big can the group be? And what sort of, if you have 10 Hall of Famers joining the discussion in the room, and let's say you have somebody from Washington, you have somebody from the Giants, and you have somebody from Dallas. Well, if I'm Jeff Lurie, I'm screaming, hey, wait a second.
Right.
Let me get, who I can't even think of one right now, but let me get an old-time Eagle in there to advocate for us Eagles. Well, that's not what it's about. And again, it may not happen that way. I don't know. But I think that the process is slightly unwieldy and very long as it is right now. And look, I'll stay in there for 24 hours if we have to. But I don't. And if we want to get people who have played in there to discuss it, I'm okay with it. But I would really want to make sure that all the people in there were either we could trust them to be sort of bias-free, or alternatively, we get 32 guys in there, one from every team.
I've got 30 seconds left with you, Peter King. Marshawn Lynch tweeting out the shoes hanging from the telephone wire.
I thought that was a riot. You know why, Rich? He just wants to sneak in under the wire and not have anybody write a lot about it. So he figures, I'll do it in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl.
Not great. So what do you make of this? Is this he's really retiring, or is he?
I think so. John Schneider is pretty convinced he is. I think he probably is, Rich. I mean, why go to all this trouble to do that? Paul Allen thinks he is. Russell Wilson thinks he is. So I'm sure that those conversations have taken place. But as Peyton Manning said yesterday, I don't want to make an emotional decision, and I think it's a good idea. Get away from it for a while, and we'll see what happens.
Peter, thanks again. Another great job.
Thanks a lot, Rich. Take care.
You bet. At @SI_Peter King.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.